Hello and welcome to my latest tutorial on how to make a very simple Easter bunny topper for an Easter cake. I'm going to be showing you how to make this little fella, cute little Easter bunny. Very simple. All you need is 3 colours of fondant, white, pink and black, and then a sharp knife just to cut your fondant with, some cocktail sticks for a bit of texturing and also for keeping the model upright. And now this is my watercolour brush, brand new from the shop, obviously never used to paint watercolour. I use this. You don't have to have this, you could just have a normal paintbrush with some water, or you could even use your little pinky finger and just a tiny dab of water. It's purely to act as a glue to stick the fondant together. You do not need a lot of water. Put too much on, it'll all go tacky and slippy and horrible, so you just need a tiny bit, which is why I use a brush like this. So that's all the equipment that you use. So let's make a start. So to make this little Easter bunny, I'm going to use white fondant, a little bit of pink fondant, and a tiny little bit of black fondant for his eyes. First thing you need to do is soften up your fondant. So I give this a good knead on my mat. And now I'm going to use gum tragacanth. I have spoken about this in one of my blog posts. It's basically an additive that you can put into sugar paste to make it harden better. It stays harder than just sugar paste, so you can make your models with it, and it will stand up better than if you just use sugar paste. So I'm going to put a good shake of this into my white fondant. It's only really the white that you need it on, but I would highly recommend it if you're going to be making models to use the gum tragacanth, just to make the fondant stand up better. So you need that in nicely to keep it all, get it mixed in right through. And the first thing we're going to do is just take, and I'm going to make this model quite small, it's only going to go on the top of a small cake in my case, so I'm just going to make it, well, as you saw, probably 3 inches tall, if that, probably more like 2 to be honest. So I've taken a lump of the white fondant, and I'm just using the palms of my hands and a bit of pressure, rolling it around until it's nice and crease free. I don't use any icing sugar or corn flour or anything like that to stop it sticking. I just use dry hands, and of course my mat that again I spoke about in a blog post. It's just a cheap food grade mat. That it's a chopping board basically, but flexible, and I just I use that, and that acts as a non-stick mat. So we have our ball of white fondant. Now what I'm going to do is take it between my hands like this. As you can see, I'm just going to roll it into a teardrop shape. Really simple. It's the basis of quite a lot of models actually. Roll it into a little teardrop shape, and then I'm going to place him. That's the rabbit's body. I'm going to place that just on a mat to dry. Anything will do. I mean, this is a foam mat which helps the model to dry all around, but if you've got a plate, anything along those lines, then that's absolutely fine. So that's basically the body of the rabbit. Now I'm just going to take a little bit of the pink sugar paste. I haven't put any gum tragacanth in this because this doesn't matter. It's just for the front of his body. Again, I've just rolled that out so there's no creases, it's nice and smooth. And once again, I'm just going to roll that into a teardrop shape to echo the shape of the body. So there we have 2 teardrop shapes. And now I'm just going to put that on my mat and flatten it with my finger. Just flatten it all over so that it looks like that, nice and flat. And then what I'm going to do is just using my little paintbrush with some water in it that I told you about earlier. You can just use a paintbrush or even your finger with a dab of water on. I'm just going to put some water on the front there, and then I'm going to place the pink flattened teardrop over the top and just stick it over. And there we have a nice little bunny's tummy. So we'll just leave that there. Set that up there so you can see it. Okay, right, so next I'm going to do the legs. So I'll take a smaller piece of the white gum paste. Again, the size of this is up to you. If you want to make him with massive big legs, make him look really cute, or tiny little ones, it's up to you. Take a small amount of the white gum paste, roll it around to get the creases out, and then I'm going to take my sharp knife and I'm going to cut that in half. And then you've got two halves, one for each leg, obviously. And for this, again, I've just rolled one of them into a nice ball, and then I'm going to place it on my the palm of this hand, and with these two fingers I'm just going to roll it backwards and forwards, applying a little more pressure to my fingertips than the end, so you just end up with that sort of shape. So it's kind of a very elongated teardrop, and just round that off nicely. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten the end out a little bit and just turn it up so you can see there is a little foot shape emerging there. Now I'll keep that on my mat and I will roll the second one out. I will do exactly the same, roll it out with a bit more pressure on one end, and then I'm going to flatten it out, turn it up, so we now have two little leg shapes. Not quite the same length, but that's fine. Just roll it out a little bit more. Now we have the two little leg shapes. So again, put some water on the inside and just place that around the bunny so you can see it's as if he's sitting down. More water on the inside of that one, place it around the bunny. Okay. Now again, just going to take a tiny little bit of the pink sugar paste, roll that out on my finger. Again, I'm just getting the creases out because it's a smaller bit, just getting the creases out like that. I will then cut it in half. Now these are going to be the little pads of his feet, so just roll them into a tiny little round shape. And then I'm going to flatten that on the palm of my hand using my finger. So we just have a tiny little white circle. Put a little bit of water, a tiny little bit of water on the back of that, and then that can just be placed on the end of the foot. Same again here. So roll it out, oops, come back, then flatten it on the palm of my hand. They should both be the same size because we've cut a little piece in half, and again stick it to the end of his feet. So now you see you have your bunny with his little paws, pads of his paws there. Now we'll move on to the head, but what I want to do first is insert a little cocktail stick. Now I buy these in the hundreds. I'm just going to take off, measure up so you can see that's quite a lot bigger than my bunny. So I'm just going to take a little bit of that off to make it a little bit shorter, and then I'm going to insert this by twisting it all the way down. Twist it so that you don't squash the sugar paste, and then we have a little skewer on which to put his head. So now is the time to decide how big you want his head. Don't do it too big because it'll be too heavy for the body to support. So roll out another piece of your white fondant getting rid of all the creases in the palm of your hands, and just have a little look. So what I'm going to do is just roll that out and then give it a bit of a squish to make it more oval, and then just measure that. So that's quite nice. That's quite a nice size. So I'm going to take him, I'll put him on the mat, and then I'm going to take another small piece of the white fondant, again roll it out. I'm going to cut that in half with my sharp knife, take one of the pieces, make a nice little round out of it. So that's a sort of a pea-sized piece. The hazards of having children while filming tutorials, singing in the background, I do apologise. Okay, so we've got two same size little pieces here, and what I'm going to do is, it's quite difficult to show this, the front of his face, I'm going to place those onto the front of his face. Difficult to see this without, so there we are, place those on like that, and then I'm going to just squash them down, and if you can see, that's his sort of snout taking shape. So squash those on, and the fondant is still nice and fresh and squishy, so you don't actually need to put water on to keep that on. So what we're going to do now is his nose. So I'll just put this down, take another tiny piece of your pink fondant. It's really tiny, as you can see, very small, an extra little bit there, and I am going to be visited by a small person any second. I do apologise. So I've got that tiny little ball, as you can see there. I've put it in between my fingers because I'm going to pinch it there and flatten it on the top just to make it a little bit triangular. So I don't know whether you can see, not particularly. To try and make it triangular using my fingers like that, then drop it. So that's the little nose, and you'll be able to see that that is going to sit really nicely just in the top, on top of his little snout. Squash it in. There you have, cute little nose. So now, just using the end of the cocktail stick that I've just snapped off, a tiny little bit, what I'm going to do is create some little whisker indentations on each one of his snout sides. So I think you can see that, just like that, to make it look like his whiskers are coming out of there. So there we have his little face so far. Leave him there. Now, black fondant, I'll try and leave this till last because it gets your fingers dirty and you have to wash your hands in between. So it's not ideal, but there we are. So what I'm going to do is just roll that out as we normally do. So we've got a nice little, again, a pea-sized black piece. I'm going to cut that in half. And I'm just going to stick those on there. The cute little bunny eyes. So now I'm going to take the tiniest little bit of my white sugar paste and just flatten it out, roll it up into a little ball, get rid of the creases. Cut that in half like that. So you've got two tiny little pieces, and we're just going to put some little flecks in his eyes because they look really cute. So one on one side, and they're sort of flecks of light, so they're not supposed to be a pupil. And try and get this one in exactly the same place on the other eye. Just sort of managed there. So there we are, little bunny face. So now we need to move on to make some ears. So I'm going to take a slightly larger piece because obviously we need to make two ears. That's the general idea. So once again, make a nice crease-free ball in with the palms of your hands, and then I'm going to cut it in half again so that we have equal sized ears. Now with the first one, roll it into a ball, and then once again, like we did with the body and like we did with the legs, I'm going to make a teardrop shape, but it needs to be quite long and thin. So it's, there we are, it's more of a I don't know, a bunny ear shape, I suppose. So that's one. I'll just do the other one. And we are going to flatten it out, and there we are, and make it a little less blunt, pointy at the end. So there's two bunny ears of an even shape and size. And now, as I say, we're going to just flatten it out, and lay that down, and do the same with this. Flatten it out with your finger and lay it down. Now, once again, as we did with the tummy of the bunny, I'm going to make two smaller teardrop shapes, very long teardrop shapes, to go like the inside of his ears. So just roll that out. Once again, cut in half. So we have two long teardrop shapes, which can then be placed onto the ear like that, so it runs right down the center. And then I'm just going to I have to put it on the mat, just going to squash the two together. So as you can see, that makes a really nice ear. The more you squash it in there, the more together it looks, and you could even make a little sort of indentation in there. So there we are. So I'm just going to do the same with this ear. There's my long teardrop shape. Place it onto that ear, keeping it in the center. Squash it down while it's on the mat, because it's just easier to do that. Right, so we've got two really nice ears there. As you can see, they're going to look lovely. Now, it's not really feasible to get those both standing up looking great, and actually a floppy-eared rabbit is really, really cute. So what I'm going to do, and you can arrange the ears however you want to do it, but what I'm going to do is have one ear, and I'm just going to bend that over, and I'm going to put that sort of lolling down the side of his head. But this one, I'm going to take another cocktail stick and very, very carefully just going to cut the end off so that it's flat at the end, and very, very carefully I'm going to twist the cocktail stick in again, like we did with the body, so that you're not squashing the fondant shape down. I'm just going to twist that into the ear, just so far, maybe halfway up, so you can still bend the ear. So now the ideal thing is to leave that to dry for a little while. And what I'll do is I will put this bunny together once, just lay that on the mat to dry, lie it on its side with a curve in it, so that it's keeping its shape nicely. So while we're just waiting for that to dry, even though that would take longer than that to dry, I'm just going to take another piece of my white fondant to make the arms of the bunny. So once again, roll that out into a nice crease-free ball, place on there and cut in half, and same sort of shape, as just keep it really simple, very elongated teardrop shape like that. Okay, and what I might do with this is, on the palm of my hand, take my index finger and just roll it around about ½ centimetre up from the end of your bunny's arm, just to sort of make a little indentation for a paw, so almost its wrist sort of thing. So I'm going to leave that there, make the other one. So into a ball, elongated, teardrop, and pour indentation. And then, same as we did with the legs, a little bit of water on the inside. And what you could do is make it so that this bunny is holding an Easter egg. So you just attach that there and make it, and you could put a little mini egg, or even you could get a Cadbury's cream egg and make it so that he's hugging the egg. So that should stay there. Now this ear, which I'm going to make quite floppy, is I'm just going to fold that over so that it looks like the ear is attached. I'm going to attach it from the outside here with a little bit of water. Stick that on there and have it so that you can see the little pink in the middle. And then what we can do, just for, I would leave this to dry, maybe even overnight, but we'll place the head on top of the little bunny so you can see him. You can see he's starting to come together now. Now what we need to do, obviously this, whoops a daisy, ooh, sorry bugs, it's fallen over. This is why you need to leave it to dry, just to allow for a bit of more hardness. So I'll just move that out of the way. You can see he's sat there. And now what I'm going to do with this, it's not dry, I would leave this to dry probably overnight. I'm just going to take off about half of the cocktail stick. Using the half that I've just taken out, I'm just going to poke a guide hole into there. And I will use that hole to guide where the ear is going to go, and he will sit like that. So once he's dry, that'll sit quite nicely, and there we have a nice simple decoration for the top of an Easter cake. Little Easter bunny. Quite simple. Now if you were to get a little more technical, you could give him little rosy cheeks with some luster dust. You might want to just give him, whoops, fallen over again, sorry bugs. I'm going to take his ear out there. Give him a little cottontail on the back, which would be nice. It's literally just a ball of white fondant. Stick that on the back. Now you could use your cocktail stick just to give that a little bit of texture, sort of like we did with the cheeks, just to make it look like he's got a fluffy cottontail. So there we have it, our little cock-eared bunny. Oh, one of his arms has fallen off. There we have. So you could make that any size, any colour. You could arrange his ears as you saw fit. But there we have a nice little Easter bunny for the top of your Easter cake. So get playing with your icing, and if you do manage to make one and put it on the top of a cake, then please take a photo and post it on the group. I'd love to see how you got on, and some feedback would be great. And any other ideas for little tutorials like this, I would be very happy to hear them and to help you out in any way I can. Okay, thanks, bye bye.